Conservative media viewers, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, the Super Genius, and we have another Ask a Super Genius video here. Now, it's been a while, people have been wanting this back, so I'm bringing it back. And for those that aren't familiar with what I do here with Ask a Super Genius, well, first of all, I'm a super genius. So that's step one. Second of all, what we're trying to do here, this isn't supposed to be, you know, a doctoral thesis. This isn't the end-all, be-all. This isn't tons and weeks of research and stuff like that. It's not meant to be that. What it's meant to be is to get a very important or difficult subject and explain it as clearly and simply as possible so that as many people can understand it as possible. And it's also meant to be something, hence the title, Ask a Super Genius. It would be not unlike if you walked up to me on the street or sitting down having lunch, a cup of coffee or something like that, and you said, hey John, what do you think about this? And this is what I do. So this is basically no notes, no prep. I'm just rolling right here. So let's roll with that right now. This one, and first of all, of course, we also have to say, this is all my personal opinion only, not alleged facts, not casting aspersions, all for entertainment and parody purpose, only check disclaimers. Okay, here we're talking about what is the best tax system. A flat tax, consumption tax, this regular income tax, a different system. What's the best system? First of all, you have to understand a couple different things. Number one, and I've said this in many other videos, and you know, I love economics, I love finance, I love law and economics, basically using economic principles to basically look at public policy. And you know, I don't know if you want to call me an expert in that or some kind of whiz kid or savant or whatever, but I'm very, very good at it. So this is kind of like one of those situations, right? Or one of those problems you might get in that kind of situation. It's like this. First of all, you have to understand the basics of economics. The basics, when you boil it all down, are economics is a study of scarcity, scarce resources. There's only so much of everything. Doesn't matter. Air, water, whatever you're talking about. Money, everything. There's only so much. In order to make more things, right, you need a couple different things. Obviously, you need the natural resources and all that, whatever. But let's just put that assumption aside for a second. Because that gets into a whole other stuff. You know, keeping that constant, right? The basics to making more stuff is you need more people working and you need more productivity. If more people are working and they're working more efficiently, they're going to make more stuff. If more stuff is made, it gets spread around to more people have a better standard of living, more money, more goods, everything like that. So either they're making more money and or they have more goods, cheaper, so it all works together. That's what you do. If nobody works, nobody has anything, right? Basically, if everybody works and they do it very extremely efficiently, you know, infinitely efficiently, then everybody can have everything, basically for free. So that's not totally accurate, obviously, but that's a very simplified way of thinking about it. Now, with that context, let's also look at what kinds of incentives can we create to have people work more. Number one. In addition, you have to look at the tax code. You have to look at pretty much everything government does, rules, regulations, stuff like that, as sort of affecting three different things. Number one, production. In other words, does this get people or incentivize people to work, to make things? Because again, we need to make things. That's the way people can have the most stuff. Or B, does this cause what's called speculation? Speculation in the terms of like, you know, hiring lobbyists to go up there and lobby to have a change in the tax bill that may be favorable to your industry or something like that, or some other law. So, you know, does this cause basically more people to go lobby Congress more, therefore they're not spending time on production? Or C, does this increase or decrease administrative costs, right? In terms of, let's put it another way, costs of compliance. So a lot of people may have experienced, if you own a small business or a big business, or even if you have complicated taxes, that it takes a long time to fill out your tax forms for a lot of folks or in a lot of businesses. It also you might have to hire a lawyer, you might have to hire accountants, you might have to hire many of those folks. You may even have to have one or two of those folks on staff. So there's costs of compliance. And again, if you're doing compliance stuff, you're not really necessarily producing things. I'm not saying that, you know, lawyers and accountants and those kind of folks aren't valuable in what they do, but you understand what I'm trying to say here, right? So it's with that lens that I want to look at these types of things. Now, the current tax structure, I would argue that the current tax structure is very harmful to productivity and growth, and just, you know, it's also, people can argue fairness and this and that, whatever, fine. Those arguments could go on forever. The point is this. the problem with the current tax structure is you have many different rates and you have a huge tax code, and it takes a lot of compliance. You have the IRS that's very, very big. You have the tax code that constantly changes that you have to update it. You have all kinds of people lobbying Congress every year on the tax code. And you have all kinds of compliance costs and stuff like that. And also, when you get to a certain level, if you're being taxed at 50% or more and taxes seem to be going up, then you have a situation where some people say, you know what, I don't want to, live in this state anymore. I'm going to go to another state that taxes me less. Or I may not even want to work anymore. Or I may want to, instead of working, I'm going to invest my money because there's lower taxes there. Or I may even go, put a plan overseas or go overseas myself because I don't want to deal with this level of taxation anymore. So, that's the thing. So if we look at this at a very sort of super high level, right? You say to yourself, well, what's the best tax rate, this and that, whatever. Well, again, you want to incentivize people to work as much as possible. The problem with, and we can talk about specific policies, but we'll get really into the weeds and all that stuff. The whole point is, at a very simple level, you have to ask yourself, what are we doing with the tax code here? In other words, if you tax something, you're going to get less of it, less incentives. Even if it's a marginal rate, maybe you work one less hour, and maybe you don't quit your job, you don't leave the state, you don't leave the country, but maybe you work one less hour, or maybe you invent one less thing. It's all on the margins, right? But it has an impact. And so my biggest question is, why do we tax income? We want people to work. You make money from working. We want people to work. That's what we want. It seems to be that we tax all the things that we want. Savings, investing, working, all that type of stuff. That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make a lot of sense anyway. And putting all the fairness issues aside. So the point is, I don't like the whole notion of income tax anyway, in terms of as a policy. I don't think it's the best policy. Number two, and just getting into this just for a quick second, because I don't want to get into the fairness arguments just yet. People talk about, oh, we're going to tax the rich, tax the rich. Does it ever occur to you that the rich, the really rich, I'm talking people with millions and millions in the bank, let alone billions, okay, liquid, right? A lot of those folks, frankly, aren't even working anymore, or, they're spending out of their wealth. They're not spending out of their income. The other thing is that those folks often have the best lawyers, the best accountants. So that's another sort of problem, if you will, with the sort of income tax way of going about things, let alone all the fairness arguments. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, when we talk about a flat tax, what is that? A flat tax basically says, as it is traditionally formulated, a flat income tax, right? There's different flat taxes, but let's say a flat income tax, which is the most common use of the term. That basically means, hey, instead of taxing at different levels, rich pay more, if you're poor, you pay less or nothing, or maybe even get something back, whatever. We're going to tax everybody at the same rate. Now, most of the flat tax plans also include, help for the people that are poor, so that are very similar to the current systems. So this is basically for people that, mostly would pay tax. The idea basically is, look, we need, to make the tax code simpler, again, to reduce the compliance costs, to reduce some of that speculation so that people aren't going up to Capitol Hill every year with the lobbying. They know, hey, it's whatever it's going to be, 15, 20, 25% flat, that's it. So that's not going to change, so stuff like that. So there's a big case to be made if you're not going to, there's obviously advantages to moving to a flat tax system in regards to those kinds of things. Now, you still have the situation where you still are taxing income and you're still basically stuck with the same system, but you're making it better, if you will. That's the easiest way to understand that. There's also the fairness argument, pro and con. Now let's look at what's called the consumption tax. That basically says, look, we're going to use a flat tax type of principle, but we're going to use it at the point of consumption, not when you make money. We're not going to tax you for making money or investing or any of these types of things. We're going to tax you for actually going out there and spending money, because what I like about this, I like it a lot. If you are ready to do away with all the income tax and all the other taxes, as I take Grover Norquist's point, Americans for Tax Reform, and other people's points, that there is a danger in putting a new tax out there without doing away with the old tax, because now you have another thing out there for people to tax. But the issue basically is here, when you do it this way, then when you have the super rich person with all kinds of yachts, this and that, whatever, when they buy that next yacht or the whatever, the dinner, this and that, whatever, you're taxing them. You don't have to worry about the income tax forms, this and that, whatever, or them not even working anymore. You're taxing it when they spend the money. If they're rich and they're spending the money, boom, you're taxing them. Also, you're taxing tourists. Also, you're taxing people that maybe, for whatever reason, aren't paying income tax. Everyone gets taxed at the point of consumption. Now, again, you can do certain things, rebates for the poor. You can exempt certain things like food that you buy at the grocery store, all that type of stuff to help out the folks that need help, or the things we don't want to tax, or people that are poor, all that type of stuff. What I like about this is it does if you do it right, it would do away with the IRS, essentially, or really reduce it, right? And you already have states and merchants that are already set up to collect sales tax. This just adds on to it. So the administration is already there. It's very simple in a lot of ways to be able to go ahead and do this. It makes just a ton of sense to me, right? Of course, there's things that you're going to have to tweak and fine-tune, everything like that. And what's great about this is it reduces, again, that administration, and it reduces compliance, and it reduces speculation, which I think is a good thing. And you're not taxing the things that we want: investment, savings, work, and stuff like that. You have every incentive. You have as much incentive as you could possibly have to go and work, basically, okay? And to go and invest and do all that type of stuff. If you don't want to pay tax, you don't have to spend money, or you find things on sale or whatever like that. To me, it enhances efficiencies. It gets money the government needs, but it enhances efficiencies. I think that has a lot of merit to it. I'm fine with people looking at flat tax, whatever like that, ways to improve what we currently have. But I think that's what makes the most sense. Eventually, either a very, I think some kind of flat consumption tax, call it whatever you want to call it, is the best way to go. Tax the consumption. Don't tax the creation and the income and the investment. It doesn't make any sense, right there. If you go, think about it. If you go and you make, let's say 1 year, $100,000, you work super hard, and why should you have, let's just say, half of that money taken away by the government? And then let's say, okay, you have half that money taken away by the government, and then you go and you're really smart and you say, you know what, I'm gonna keep some of this for myself, and I'm gonna invest some of the rest of it. And then you invest in something, the next Apple, whatever like that, and it does really, really great. And let's say you make $1 million off that, and then the government says, oh, I'm gonna take half of that. So now you've already paid tax on this, and you're going to have to pay another huge amount of tax again. This is all hypothetical again, right? This is not the real rates or anything like that. This is all hypothetical, but it just gives you the example. And then if something happens to you, whatever like that, and you pass away and you want to give it to your family, they're going to take another tax again. So you get taxed over and over and over again, let alone the sales tax, the gas tax, everything like that. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Versus a situation where you go out there, you make you make as much money as you want, and when you spend it, when anybody spends it, we're just going to take another line item there with the sales tax, boom, we take it, and that's it. So, to me, that makes a lot of sense, and it's the most efficient. And we don't have people going up there and lobbying Congress all the time. There's nothing, you don't have to worry about deductions or anything like that. Again, we're going to have a system for the poor. There will be some administration costs. There will be some compliance. There will be some of that, right? Fine, but it will be minimized. And it makes a lot more sense. Which tax system do you prefer? What do you think about this? You tell us what's up. Give us comments below. Please subscribe to us above. I'm John D. Villarreal, the Super Genius, and you're watching Conservative New Media.